So I wanted to do a video on how high phenylalanine levels feel after being off diet for 18 years, from early adolescence up to the age of like 28 or thereabouts. I think I started cheating on the diet from about 10, 11-year-old, and then by the time I became a teenager, I was removed from the NHS lists because I was just cheating. And that's my fault. I'm completely responsible for that, you know. But I don't believe that the NHS should have struck us off the list. I don't think that was the answer. I think a bit more support for the people who were having difficulty or forgetting about the reasons why they need to keep their efforts up. Anyway, I'm digressing here. So I went back on the diet when I was 28, and I spent more than 10 years on diet, very disciplined, and that was because I tried to get back on diet, and I cheated. After about 2 weeks, I got a burger from Burger King, and that was after 2 weeks of trying to get back on diet, and I was off diet at that time, you know, completely. But because I must have brought me levels down, I must have stabilised my mentality. Any brain fog that I was experiencing on a regular basis would have dissipated, and all of a sudden, after 2 weeks of doing that, I eat a burger. I go to Burger King, and I find that I went to work, and I was working in a call centre at the time, and I had an absolute nightmare that day. I was taking calls from mortgage customers who were being repossessed or being threatened with legal action on the homes, and it was a job where you need to have some level of sharpness, you know. And that day was an absolute nightmare. I was just, oh god, I was struggling to read the notes and take it take it in, you know. But I needed to understand the notes on people's accounts for to deal with the calls effectively, and it was just a real struggle. But you know what? That day, it was such a hard day. It was just alarm bells. I knew exactly what that was. It was. I tried getting back on the diet to see how it would feel after 18 years of being off treatment. What would it? Let's just see how it feels for to get back on diet and see what improvements are being like that. See what improvements I can enjoy, you know, if there are any, and then if there aren't any that really stand out with us, then I'll make my decision on whether it's worth continuing with the diet or not. So I got back on. So I got back on diet. I cheated after 2 weeks. I had that awful day at work, but that was lesson learned. I was like, wow, these are the kind of benefits that I can have by getting on diet and sticking to it. That, like, a completely different level of mental sharpness, and to the extent that if I don't behave with the foods that I eat, I suffer a much more heavily affected level of clarity and ability. My ability at work was definitely hindered that day. So that 2-week period, it was like a trial period of getting back on diet. That trial period, although I cheated after 2 weeks, that cheat was a brilliant cheat. That was a life-changing cheat, that. And I was 28 at the time, you know. So I got back on diet after that. I got all organised, got all the low protein stuff that I needed, got it all in place, and I continued to keep up my efforts. I stuck to my exchanges, and I definitely reaped the rewards emotionally, mentally, energetically. I'm sure I had more energy as well, you know, because when you've got like brain fog and you've got high phenylalanine levels and that, like, it kind of affects your mood, and when you've got a low mood, you've got like low energy. I was always fairly active, you know, but I wanted to do more things because I felt I was more capable. I was like, I can achieve things. Like, I was stuck in a mentality where I didn't believe I could achieve anything. I thought that big achievements were for other people. I'm too foggy-minded to do that. I was just used to being the daft lad. Had lots of friends and that and stuff, and because I loved to have fun, and so I surrounded myself with people who also love to have fun, and that's exactly what we did. But you know what, when I got back on treatment, on the diet, and I started to enjoy the benefits of being on diet, I challenged myself to new things. In the long run, I got new hobbies as well. I moved out of the city that I was born and brought up in, because I wanted to be in a more rural place, and I wanted away from social circles because I would just go out for drinks on a weekend and that with pals and stuff like that, which is brilliant, but it just kind of didn't feel enough for me anymore, you know. So I started studying. I started a degree. I moved to Durham, and I just had a completely different life. The degree took us 6 years. It was a 6-year degree. It was part-time, you know, so it's not the 3 years. It's actually over 6, but an access course makes it 7. And I had a year's break at one point as well. So that's what happened with that. And so I was about 37 or 38 or whatever when I graduated, and that completely transformed my life, you know. Once your hobbies went from simply just going out drinking and having a laugh, to reading books, getting degrees, trying your hand at more intellectual hobbies, you know. Never really becoming a master of any of them, but being able to manage it, you know, like just to find some kind of like enjoyment out of it, and getting better, constant improvement, because you're enjoying things, you're practicing, and not even practicing in a fashion that it's like work, you know. It's like just doing it because you like it. Yeah, so I mean, it turned my life upside down, or maybe it was already upside down, and I turned it the right way around, in fact, you know, by getting back on diet. But after I got my degree, I was like, like finally I can breathe out a bit now, you know, because like I'd achieved what I'd set out to achieve, but I suppose I was considering what I wanted to do for work. I considered teaching. I decided, no, maybe not. And I ended up just continuing with what I'm doing. I'm a support worker, and that's what I'm doing these days. I'm part of a team of people who support and look after a 45-year-old man with profound disabilities, and it's great, you know. I've worked in companies that don't sit right with me, like large corporate companies, and their management, toxic management in those places, I find. They don't look after you. They don't even want to understand the individual, the employee. It's like it's all stick, and it's not. They're not good to people. You know, that's what I find anyway. And I'm sure that there are some large companies or there are some managers in large companies who, particularly financial companies, and that, like, who are good to people, you know. But more often than not, it's just more toxic than what I allow for myself these days. I don't want to be putting myself in those positions where I'm dealing with toxicity anymore. Especially with because I'm a person with PKU as well. Say for example, I have high protein levels, like one day or a number of days, or I have a period of time where, oh god, I've just kind of like dropped the ball and my phenylalanine levels are affected. I'm coming to work. How that would manifest, how I would deal with that would be that I would get like a brain fog. My concentration is not always where it should be when I've got high phenylalanine levels. My god, what's my levels like at the moment? So a brain fog is one thing, but sometimes you might get through the day and you've got high levels, but you haven't been affected by brain fog. But if I've got high phenylalanine levels and I am affected in my mentality, sometimes like sometimes I get like a sort of psychological sort of decline, like a bit of paranoia sets in, like how is he perceiving me, you know? And sometimes I'm right to have those thoughts, because I have been in situations where it appeared to me that I'm not being perceived in positive ways, you know, and just because I've got high phenylalanine levels, it doesn't mean to say that I can't think about things and I can't recognise things. In fact, having high phenylalanine levels, you're relying on being able to read people and to understand exactly what's going on and how you're being perceived. Sometimes when I've got high phenylalanine levels, I'm clumsier than what I normally would be, you know, and on the back of being clumsy, how is that person who's just observed me do that in a klutzy way, how is he gonna, how did he perceive me there? Like, what's his attitude towards me now, you know? And especially if you have a string of clumsy mishaps, or you've dealt with things in uncomfortable ways, or you seem underconfident because what you're eating is affecting your mentality, it's affecting your ability, and you know what, it's not really that it affects me ability so much, although it kind of does a little bit, I suppose. But like, I think for me, it ramps up the anxiety, and the clarity of mind to express yourself is hindered. You know, and because you're not expressing yourself as well as what you could do, and because your anxiety's heightened, you're putting yourself in situations, well, I am, because I'm talking about me here, where I'm expected to perform. If it's like, say if I was working for a large corporate organisation, I'm expected to perform, and I'm putting myself in positions where management and colleagues and that can observe me like struggling to perform, and then they'll judge that, and that's just human nature. And I would be, by repeatedly putting myself in these situations with heightened anxiety, and with me communication skills not being up to scratch as much as they normally would be, I would be repeatedly putting myself in these situations and giving myself much higher chances of not dealing with those situations very well. And then that, on the back of that would be what my reputation would be built on. My reputation would be built on how I perform and how I express myself. If you express yourself confidently and clearly, you're gonna get respect from people a lot easier, because people will see that you know where you're going, and you're sure you've got a sure direction, you know, and people respect that. People feel that, yeah, he's with it, like he's got a plan, you know, and he's carrying it out. And if you're performing confidently without the anxiety that high phenylalanine levels brings, then you've got much better chance in performing better, you know, because you're not carrying that anxiety. You're relaxed. You're going about it with a clear mentality. It's just easier. It's just not giving yourself such a hard time. So whether it be workplace scenarios like workplace challenges or everyday tasks of any kind, by putting yourself into these scenarios with heightened anxiety levels and affected and hindered levels of self-expression, then you're just giving yourself a much bigger task at building your reputation, because your reputation, it is built on how you express yourself and how you perform. At times when my phenylalanine levels have been high, I've looked at people when I haven't performed at the level that I feel that I should. Sometimes might have been a bit of a klutz. And because of my high phenylalanine levels and everything, I'm looking around and I'm trying to understand, trying to get communication from body language, because people are not brave enough to tell you what they're thinking. They won't tell you that they are starting to lose respect for you. They're not going to tell you that, but the eyes will. The eyes will. So although a person with PKU might have high phenylalanine levels, don't think that they don't understand what you're thinking. They're more than likely, if they're anything like me, they can read you better than the average person. I can tell you that. If they've spent any length of time off diet and they're affected in the ways where their performance and their expression has been affected, then they are relying on reading body language, and they'll probably be damn good at it as well, you know. And you know, when I've got high phenylalanine levels, and although through anxiety, paranoia is a thing with having high phenylalanine levels. If your anxiety's been spiked, but that doesn't mean to say that that person with PKU is wrong about how they think they're being perceived, or think how people could be perceiving them. They've got good reason to be paranoid about that. They recognise, accept and fully understand that their performance and their expression is not as sharp as what it would be had they not eaten what they've just eaten for lunch, you know, if I've worded that right. They know that their sharpness is not up there. So just because that person with PKU has an anxiety spike through their high phenylalanine levels, that doesn't mean to say that they're being overly paranoid or wrong about their fear of being judged by other people. That they're not wrong. They are fully aware that their performance and their self-expression is being affected by their high phenylalanine levels, and they've got good reasons to doubt people's attitudes towards them. And let me tell you, people do judge when you're not performing up to scratch, especially if it's repeated. And for a long time, I didn't even know that was me PKU that was affecting us in these ways. You know, 18 years off diet, and I just faced it. I just faced it every day. Every day it was hard. You know, it was a difficult lifestyle. Might have enjoyed a few extra choices on my plate and that, you know, which brilliant, but like, my God, it doesn't matter what scenario I was in, whether it was a social situation with friends, because there is a social hierarchy, you know. There's levels of respect that you get in circles of friends as well, and that's based on performance and expression. The sharp and witty ones, they get a lot of respect. The confident ones, the ones with a bit of swagger, they get a lot of respect. The klutzy, underconfident ones, the shyer ones, maybe not so much, you know. So yeah, this is how people are affected by high phenylalanine levels based on my experiences, and I believe I very much understand both sides of the coin. I understand having high phenylalanine levels, how that feels, but I also understand the benefits and the rewards that can be reaped from treating the PKU diet with a lot of respect, and it can be a real life changer.